congratulations again, Ken, on that especially. And again, if you're just joining the call, I know there's some folks joining the call. Just as far as etiquette goes, we've got everybody muted, but feel free to press any number on your dial pad and we can address your question or concern as we move forward. And we do have very exciting news this evening from Wyoming Promise and from being in D.C., the swamp, to report back to everyone. And so we hope that this we can energize everyone and have everybody feel very good about where we're at right now. So again, feel free to press any number on your dial pad if you do have a question or concern. Ken's voice is a little scratchy tonight from all the travels and everything, and that's okay. And I'll chime in when necessary. And we have Shayna and Jen and Lynn also on the call to help us out. So thanks to everyone who is joining us at this point, because this is a very important call, and we do have great news to share with everyone. So, Ken, I don't know if you want to go ahead and get started, or if this might be the right time.
Yeah, I can go ahead and get started. And Lynn, welcome to the call. I did have unmuted you, so if you want to jump in at any point, you are unmuted. So right now, Shelby and Lynn and I are unmuted. We are the three people, along with Lynn's husband, Rod, who all went down to Washington, D.C. last Friday, spent the weekend there, and then Lynn, Rod, and I stayed over Monday to actually meet with our congressional delegation, do some lobbying. The event was a thing called the National Citizens Leadership Conference. It was a conference sponsored by American Promise, the group that has been giving us some help. The phone conference call facility that we're using right now is an American Promise thing that they lend us for no charge. They're supporting us. Although they do not control us, they do give us some logistical support. But they put on this national conference to bring together people from all over the country who are working on different pieces of this project. Some are working on ballot initiatives. Many more are working on getting this done through their state legislature. So we had some training, some sharing of information, some all kinds of fun conferences. And then we had some energizing speakers. We had Bill Moyers gave a rousing address during lunch on Saturday. He was introduced by Deborah Winger, the actress. So some really big-name people were there to give us some inspiring talks. And before the Bill Moyers talk on Saturday, I'm happy to announce that we received an award. The Wyoming Promise was given the Citizens Leaders Award for the work that we're doing here in Wyoming. They called us up on stage, gave us a nice little plaque and a round of applause, and I accepted it on behalf of all of you on this call because it's your work and your outstanding efforts in gathering signatures, being on the streets. You're doing the hard work. You're in the trenches doing the hard work, and that's who deserves this award. So we accepted the award as your representatives, and we want to thank you for all the work you've been doing to get us to this point. The night before, Friday night, Al Simpson got an award, too. They gave awards out to 4 current or former U.S. senators who have been doing this work. Al got the first one. They also gave the same leadership award to Senator John McCain, Senator John Tester, and Senator Mark Udall, were the 4 senators who got similar awards. So Wyoming got one of the senators' awards and also a Citizens Leaders Award. So they're noticing us. We have penetrated the consciousness of activists all around the country. And they also did us a solid by helping us do some fundraising. Shelby, do you want to talk about the fundraising effort?
Sure thing. Yeah. At the conference, Ben and Jeff and American Promise were very generous in passing out cards to everyone at the conference during the Bill Moyers speech at lunch. And we have raised really a tremendous amount of money in a short period of time. I am only halfway through the processing the cards and the transactions. Some is cash, some are checks, some are credit cards, and I'm only really halfway through that. But we raised a lot of money, and it's not. We're still on a shoestring budget, but we did raise a tremendous amount of money, and I will be happy to report the final numbers as soon as I get those done. I'm teaching this summer. So that takes up a big chunk of my time, but I'm trying to get through and process all these card numbers and checks and cash and all that stuff as I go. But really, it was a windfall relative to everything else that we've had in the past. So we're on our way to a good fundraising goal, I would say, at this point. We can still use more, of course, but I'm so happy and pleased to see folks across the country recognizing our efforts, seeing what we're doing in Wyoming as one of the most important efforts in the nation, and donating. So I hope that kind of gives you all some energy and helps to let you folks know to remind your volunteers if they can give $28 or $20 or $10 or $5 or $3, we can get this done. We definitely can, especially with this fundraising.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of people now around the country who are cheerleading for us. They're helping us to succeed, but they're also watching us. So there's a lot of eyes on us, which I like, but also it's kind of scary because now that increases the stakes for us to succeed. We need to pull this off, and I think we can. We've got some ideas about how we can do it, but again, it's going to require a lot of hard work. Also, on Saturday, right after lunch, I was honored to sit on a panel with Cenk Uygur. I don't know how many of you watched the Young Turks show, but Cenk Uygur is the host of the Young Turks and founder of Wolfpack, and he's a rock star in this movement. People, especially younger people, really who get their news from podcasts or get it online, they know about Cenk, and he's a rock star. He was sitting right next to me on a panel. The other members of the panel were Craig Clevenance from Montana, who was kind of sort of the topic was a debate on whether or not it's safe to call for an Article 5 convention of states. Cenk and I were taking the pro side. Yes, it is safe and actually a good idea to try it. Craig Clevenance was sort of kind of cautious about it, but the primary opponent, the con side, was Vicki Harrison from New Mexico Common Cause. And, of course, Common Cause is vehemently opposed to Article 5. So we had a little debate. And since I was on the panel, I'm a little biased about how it went, so I'm going to ask Shelby or Lynn, if you want to jump in, too, to kind of report how you thought the debate went and what the results were.
I'll jump in here first. This is Shelby. I just want to say that Ken and Cenk basically destroyed any arguments that were on the against side of an Article 5 convention. It was just a straight-up victory for using this as a strategy to put pressure on the legislature. And we will, in the recap for this conference call, in addition to the recording of this conference call that you can send out to folks that your teams that might not have been able to listen in, we will send links to these things. And we already have some on our Facebook page for Wyoming Promise, but we will send those things out. And I think it was just a clear victory in favor of moving forward, especially now. If you heard the news today with Anthony Kennedy leaving the Supreme Court is getting less and less likely to reverse Citizens United in our lifetimes. So Article 5 might be the best way to, and continue to be the best way to push our legislators to move forward.
Lynn, do you want to say anything about either the debate or any other parts of the conference?
I This is Lynn Horton Morrison, and what I would say about that particular debate was that, and I think this is true for most of the arguments that are used against what we're trying to achieve, is that it generally comes from creating fear and creating doubt. And so the woman, Vicki, Ken, what did you say her last name was?
I think it was Vicki Harrison.
Yeah, Vicki Harrison. So a lot of what she was trying to do was create doubt in the minds of people. And from talking with the group from Maryland, who had this wrapped up until Common Cause brought a bunch of money to bear and created enough doubt that they lost their state resolution. That's what she does. I think that's what a lot of people who are against this are going to try and do. And so that's where, what we really need to do, and what was stressed during the conference is to just try to be as simple as we can in our messaging. It's really about getting money out of politics. It's about how having large amounts of money that fuel super PACs and self-funded candidates or unions destroys any kind of ability to have your voice as a voter heard. It's also about, getting out the vote and getting more people to sign up to vote. There were some really disturbing statistics about how poor our turnout for elections has become. And one of the things that we really need to do is get that message out to young people and get young people engaged in this issue. So get people to register to vote. I think that's going to be a big issue coming up with our petition drive. There were easily 10 or 11 different states that were represented at the conference. I was just sitting here writing them down. What I recall is Maryland, Maine, Florida, Massachusetts, New York, Virginia, New Mexico, Minnesota, Michigan, California. I got a little question with Oregon. I can't remember whether we had someone from Oregon there or not. But, easily at least 10 that were there. It was an incredibly energizing and uplifting conference. But, regardless of whether it's someone like Vicki Harrison from Common Cause saying, you can't do that, you can't call an Article 5, everything's going to be called into question, it's going to throw everything into anarchy, or whether you have someone like Representative Cheney said on Monday, well, you can't do that. You can't do this. It violates the First Amendment to the Constitution, the Free Speech Amendment. It limits free speech on the part of corporations, which is exactly what the Supreme Court's argument was in its 2010 decision. The main thing to remember are the simple things. Try to keep your message simple, which is that you can't, the government and politicians can't hear our individual voters' voices because corporations now have so much money and so much clout that they put behind the political process that they've become the megaphone that's drowned out any of our message, any of our voices. So, I think keeping the message simple and trying and making sure not to engage in petty discussions with people, I think is very important as we move forward.
And I'll just add.
Let me say something, and then Shelby, you can jump in. I wanted to point out that both Massachusetts and Maryland had measures before their legislatures to call for an Article 5 convention of states. Both of them thought they were going to succeed. They had the votes lined up. Then Common Cause came into both states, and within a week before this conference, both Maryland and Massachusetts at the last second pulled back and rejected the Article 5 call, all because of lobbying by Common Cause. And Cenk was on the panel, was rather livid about that, and he could be kind of emotional, and he was a lot more personal during the talk about the common cause being actively opposed to what we're trying to accomplish. I tried to be more factual and just stick to the facts and stick to the law, but I think we were effective. Shelby, you wanted to add something?
All I want to say is and I'll echo Cenk here when I say when it comes to Article 5 and a limited amendments convention, look, we don't act out of fear. We lead with courage. That's our motto here. And I'm fairly confident, based on Ken's very rational reasoning during that panel, that we are on the right side of history on this. And I'm more afraid of our current government or Supreme Court running away than I am of a limited amendments convention. So don't act out of fear. We lead with courage.
Yeah. The final results, they did some polling. They had a little app you could use on your phone, a website you could log into on your phone, and they took the temperature of the room before we started. Before we started, on a scale of 1 to 10, the room was 6.1, saying, "Yeah, we think that you meant the idea of a Article 5 convention is a good idea," and 4.8 said, "No, it's a bad idea." There was some overlap there. I don't quite know how that worked. After the debate, the 6.1 in favor jumped to 7.8 in favor, and the opposed went down from 4.8 to 4.3. So we moved the needle significantly in favor of. We convinced people that Article 5 is a safe thing to do. And so I felt pretty good just looking at the numbers at the end. I think we also earned some props with Wolfpack, because Cenk is the founder of Wolfpack, and they had a lot of the Wolfpack. Wolfpack was actually streaming it live, so when we give you the link to the debate, it was being streamed live, and so it's all on tape. You can watch the whole thing if you want to. But we also made contact with Mike Mineta, who's the executive director of Wolfpack. He was very impressed, very thrilled with how it went, and we might be able to talk with them now to get some volunteer support from the Wolfpack members in surrounding states. So we're thinking we might be able to get some more canvassers because we did a solid for Wolfpack, and they might help us out on the back end. So it was a very productive, I think, session. Let's move on. We want to finish up with what happened on Citizens Lobby Day, and then we have a few more things to talk about. On Monday was Shelby had to come back to teach, so Lynn, Rod, and I stayed behind on Monday, and a lot of the people who attended the conference, I think there was 200 of us who stayed behind and went to Capitol Hill and actually started knocking on doors and meeting with representatives, and everyone was encouraged to meet with their own delegation. We were able, with Jen Lorenz's help, she set up a meeting with the Wyoming delegation. And surprisingly, all three of our members of Congress were in the same room at the same time talking with us at 4 o'clock on Monday afternoon. So we met with Senators Barrasso and Enzi and Representative Cheney. And again, Lynn was there, so if you want to jump in, Lynn, at some point, I'll just share my impressions of it. And my impressions were that they are taking us very seriously. They knew who we were when we did some chit-chat, kind of ice-breaking, warmed the room up a little bit before we got into the substance. They let it be known that they knew that Lynn was a doctor. They knew I lived in Laramie. They had done their homework on us. And they all said things like, "We're impressed with the work you're doing." That's a bit, we said we have 12,000 signatures in hand right now and many more on petitions. They said that's a big number. One of them said, we're sure you're going to get your petitions done. You're going to get all. So they're very impressed with the work we're doing. They thanked us for being active and engaged in the process. So they were respectful and polite. Representative Cheney was the most, I want to say, cautious or questioning. She did a lot of the talking at first, and it was pretty. And she was giving us a line about, "Well, I'm in favor of free speech, and this kind of looks like it's hurting freedom of speech. And then Rod was fantastic. Rod said, well, wait a minute, money is not speech. What happens is money is a megaphone, and when you give a big megaphone to a corporation or somebody else to blast their speech out into the world, they get heard and we don't. So we want speech for us, for the people, for the human beings, and we're being drowned out by money. And she didn't really have a response to that, which I thought was kind of telling. So Senator Barrasso was saying some pretty encouraging things about how he thinks there's too much money in politics. He hates the fact that there's so much money in politics. So he was kind of agreeing with us on some points. He didn't commit to signing our petition or didn't commit to being a supporter, but we invited them all to list themselves on our website as a supporter. None of them did yet. Maybe they will at some point. Senator Enzi was saying things like, well, I can't commit to anything until I see the language. Well, here's a copy of our bill. No, I don't mean that. I want to know the language of the amendment. And I said, well, that hasn't been written yet, but you know what? You can help write it. As a member of Congress, Congress can write this thing. So why don't you step up and help write it? If you're concerned about it, write it yourself. Again, no response. So I thought we were able to address their concerns without being confrontational. So it was an interesting meeting. I thought it was worth doing. We learned a little bit about them. They learned a lot about us. So, Lynn, do you have any other thoughts about the meeting?
It was interesting to me that that several times during that meeting, there were concerns on the part of the representatives about self-funders.
Yes.
They said, we don't like self-funders. And so all of us came away feeling that they were referring to foster priests trying to buy the governor's office, and that they were very concerned about him. I think that also Barrasso is certainly concerned about this. He says he's been going. He made a big point at the beginning of the meeting about saying that he is traveling back to Wyoming every single weekend. So he's going throughout the state doing his own campaigning, and he did say that, there are people that are coming up to him during his meetings, his town hall meetings or whatever meetings he's having with the populace, and saying that they're concerned about this issue. And so I agree with Ken. I think they took us seriously. I really didn't expect that they were going to say that they were going to volunteer, to write a resolution or start a resolution for the Republicans. I didn't expect that. I don't think any of us expected that. What I hoped, the best I could hope for, was that, number one, they were all going to show up, and they did, and number two, that they were going to take us seriously and see that we were a force to be reckoned with, and they did. At one point, when Enzi was talking about wanting to see the language, and he was just backed away completely, and said, well, I need to see the language. I don't support anything unless I see the language. And even after Ken, pointed out to him that, well, that's what you do in an amendment process is, we call on Congress, the state calls on Congress, and then Congress proposes the amendment, and that's where you can write the language. And when he still wouldn't, come forward, and when that wasn't convincing to him, I just said to him, well, I guess what you're saying, Senator Enzi, is you have a wait and see approach. And he immediately denied that. He was very, oh no, that's not me at all. And I think, I kind of hit a nerve with that. But I do want to say that it was a very positive meeting. We didn't go into any dirty politics. We really kept it above board. So I do think we got their attention, and I think that we did. I think we impressed a lot of the other states. Delegations that are, states that are so big that, they weren't able to meet with, even one representative, let alone have all three in the same office. So that's, I think, an example of what we can do. You know, the fact that in this state we can have an impact, and I think we need to use that to our advantage. Thank you.
Yeah, at the end of the day, after we got done with our meeting, we hustled back down to a different office building where they had scheduled a kind of a check-in, wrap-up meeting. We were late to the meeting because our meeting with our senators, with the delegation, was late. So by the time we got there, most everybody else had already checked in with the results of theirs. But we got there in time to report what we had just done. And I think I don't know if anybody else got to meet with the members, but they were everybody else from the other states were so impressed that we had all three members in the same meeting. They couldn't believe that we were able to pull that off. They were very impressed with the work we're doing. So, like I said, we've got a lot of eyes on us around the country. They're watching what we're doing. They know what we're up to. So that gives me more motivation to make sure we get this done. All right, so I want to just wrap up a little bit here. One more thing I want to talk about briefly, and then we'll get into some more routine matters. The gubernatorial debate last night was very interesting. I don't know if any of you watched it. It was live streamed. Wyoming PBS live streamed it. It's it's online someplace. We posted a link to it on our website. The last question, and I have to admit that I knew that question was coming because Craig Blumenschein told me before he said, we're going to ask a question about Wyoming Promise, so you might want to have your people watch the show. I wasn't allowed to tell anybody that he'd tip me off because we're not allowed to tip off the people, but I knew the question was coming. And the last question was, do you support the efforts of Wyoming Promise, and have you signed the petition? And of all the candidates on board, one Republican was kind of wishy-washy, saying, yeah, I can see why that might be seen as a problem, but all the other Republicans said, nope, not going to sign it, even though two of them already had signed it. They didn't tell us that, but they did. But they all said, no, we're not going to sign it. Mary Throne got to her, when she was called on, she says, do I support Wyoming Promise? Absolutely. We need to get money out of politics, and she got a huge ovation. Nobody else got any applause at all when they said, nope, not going to do it. Dead silence. She says, absolutely, I support it. Big applause, big cheer from the audience. So that was really revealing that she's on the right side of that issue. We're on the right side of that issue. It gives me encouragement to keep on going. But the other thing I took from that meeting was the rationale that all the Republicans gave us. They're all singing from the same choir page, from the same book. They are going to use the free speech. They're saying that what we're trying to do is we're opposed to free speech, which is, of course, utter nonsense. What we're opposed to is having only a few voices of really wealthy people being heard and the rest of us not having a chance to be heard at all. So we're very much supporting free speech. We're against moneyed speech that's powered by dollars. We're in favor of free speech, you and me and everybody else with their own human voices being able to talk to their representatives and hear their voices get heard. So Liz Cheney tried that same line during our meeting, and Rod shut it down with the money is a megaphone line, which worked really well. She had no response. But that was the same line that all the Republicans on that team on the podium said. So I think that's our winning line, is to point out that, no, we're not against free speech. We're actually empowering speech, empowering much more speech. We're allowing many more voices to be heard. That's a good thing. And that's how we attack. We're going to get this you're against free speech line all over the place. So that's how we address it. Okay, so with that, let's get into some more routine things. Shana, let's unmute Shana and give you the mic. Okay, Shana, you now are unmuted. Can you give us an update on our current numbers and what we're up to? Go ahead, Shana.
Hey, everybody. This is Shana. So we're at 11,921 signatures. This is up from 2 weeks ago in our last call by almost 400 signatures. So we're doing really great work. We're knowing that folks are seeing us out there, that we're going to events. It's summertime, and it's time to organize. Thanks.
And I know that those are verified signatures, but we have more signatures that we have rejected for some reason because they're duplicates or we can't find the address or whatever, although our error rate's really pretty low. But those are actual, we can count on those kinds of signatures. And we also don't know, I know that they had some great success in Cheyenne over the weekend. They gathered 300 more signatures there that I don't think have been entered in yet. So we know there's a lot of signatures out there on people's petitions that haven't been turned in. So if you are a circulator on this call and you have signatures on your petition that haven't been entered yet, please enter them. Please get them to a data manager. Going up 402 weeks is too slow. We need to be gathering many more signatures. That those numbers need to start climbing really rapidly. And this is the time of year when we should be out there gathering lots of signatures. So we're going up, but not fast enough. So let's keep up the good work. Shelby, do you want to say something about our fundraising results and where we are financially right now?
Well, like I said earlier, I'm only halfway through the fundraiser that American Promise was so kind enough to raise at the conference in D.C. But we're going to be at, $5,000 to $7,000 on this. Ultimately, is where I see it. So that's huge. That's support from folks across the country that are also working on this issue, that also support us, that are very supportive of what we're doing here, and they see Wyoming as a real bellwether for the nation. If we can do this here, we can do it anywhere. So I think we're in really good shape. I haven't processed everything yet, and I'm working hard to do it, but we are in great shape as far as that's concerned. But at the same time, if any volunteer can donate $28 recurring, $10, $5, whatever, recurring, that would be very helpful too. That's all I have to say on that.
Okay. One of the reasons why American Promise did the fundraiser for us was we had a call with them about a month ago. Lynn and Shelby and I talked with them and said, we need help fundraising. And they said, well, we'll commit to getting $5,000 for you. And that's why they decided to do the fundraiser for us at their national convention. And I think they got us the $5,000 that we needed, but that's $5,000 will help us get through the summer, paying our field organizers and buying our promotion materials, things like that. It's still not enough to do what we may have to do, and that is to hire some circulators. If we want to hire circulators, we're going to need to really, really ramp up our fundraising game. And one idea that we talked about during that call with Jeff Clements and American Promise was we should start hosting house parties around the state. And I think, Lynn, you and Rod are going to do one up in Park County. I'm sorry, go ahead. Lynn, are you there?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was muted. I apologize.
Yeah. No, so I think Lynn and Rod are going to do a house party in Park County, and we're trying to find a host to do one in Teton County. And just if we can find 4 or 5 people in different places around the state, we're willing to host a house party where you invite 30 or 40 people and ask them to give $100. But at the house party we can have somebody from Wyoming Promise talk about what we're doing, answer questions, have the petitions available to sign, but also ask for money and with an ask of maybe $100 from anybody who attends the party. And if we do that 4 or 5 times around the state, that can get us a significant amount of money. So if you know anybody in your county who might be willing to host a house party. And we can help give you some names of people to invite, but you can also invite your own friends or other people you think might be supportive of this effort. Please let us know. This time is ripe to start doing this stuff. And if we can generate enough money, maybe we'll be able to hire some paid circulators to go to some of the counties where we don't have teams. We might need to have a team of paid circulators up in Gillette, because we're having a hard time finding circulators up in Gillette or in Teton, actually. So if we could raise some money through house parties, let me know as soon as you can who the person is that you think might be willing to do that and help us raise some money.
Just a correction, Ken. I believe, and I'm not saying this in trying to correct you necessarily, but just to give credit to American Promise. I believe the figure they said that they were going to raise for us, the goal was $7,000.
Of which $2,000 they gave to us right away. Jeff Clements and his wife each gave us $1,000. So we had When he said $5,000, there was already $2,000 in our bank, and right. He needed to raise $5,000 out of the convention, which I think they did. I think we got that out of the convention, out of the conference.
Well, yeah, we did get. I know that. I was given a piece of paper with a number on it by Ben Gubitz, who's one of the primary campaign folks there at American Promise, and it had the number 4754, and that was before Sunday when some additional money also came in. So
right, and I have a one in my folder too to give to Shelby too. Yeah. So there's more money than what was on that piece of paper. So I think 5,000 is a good number.
Yeah, and with the $2,000 extra from Jeff Clements and his wife, we're there in terms of what American Promise gave to us. So that's really exciting. And then the only other correction I was going to make, Ken, was I think the senator from New Mexico is Tom Udall, not Mark Udall. Is that right?
Yeah, Tom Udall. You're right. Yes. Mark he's from Arizona. All right.
Right.
Yeah, a brother, I think. Yeah, so it was Tom Udall. Okay, so let's move on. Jen, let's get Jen unmuted here. Hang on just a second, Jen. Let me. Okay, Jen Lorenz, our field organizer, has the mic at this point, and we're going to hear from Jen about our publicity efforts and other things that Jen's been working on. And by the way, Jen, thank you so much for setting up the meeting with our members of Congress. We got a lot of props from the other delegations who were impressed that we had that much clout that we could actually talk to our representatives. So, Jen, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. Happy to have helped. At this point, we have released our big press release about the award as well as about the meeting, and it's gone to every newspaper in the state of Wyoming. It has gone to 2 TV stations. We'll see if that gets picked up at all. I sent it to several radio stations, Wildfile, Cheyenne AP as well. I've shared a copy with American Promise, as well as forwarded back to the congressional delegation. So hopefully they perhaps get contacted for comments as well. That may end up giving us even more boosted and opportunity to be printed. I have been contacted by Kayla Dumas with the Laramie Boomerang. She has already informed me that they intend to print in the Sunday edition Hometown News. So down in Laramie, we should, by Sunday, we're going to see something. So for each of the counties, what I'd like to have everyone do is watch your papers, please. Let me know in the course of this week, next week, do you see an article, do you see something in there? Also, I will be sharing a copy of the press release with each of the county team leaders. Feel free to hand walk it down to the paper as a second submission, and maybe even somebody in person if anybody's on the fence about utilizing the press release to write an article or printing it as it was written. Maybe that might spur just a little extra effort on our part to get them to print it. Also, this is a prime time for flooding of letters to the editor. I know sometimes that can be taxing, and it's hard to find some folks that will, but within our teams in the county, we hopefully can find, each county can find someone who will be willing to write a letter that hasn't written one yet. If it has to be the same person who's been doing them in the past, then so be it. But new names certainly can help in that effort as well. As far as that, then we hopefully can be kicking off a little bit more social media as well with this. We'll see what kind of response we do have in those papers, getting them printed. I even sent them to Montana paper that does cover northwest Wyoming. So we'll see if what kind of things we get printed on those.
Okay, good. Thank you, Jen. And now, let me see, I want to go and unmute Shana. I want to hear, Shana is doing some work on getting some new materials ready for us that we're going to get out to the county team leaders very soon. So, Shana, you are unmuted. Go ahead and report in on what you've been up to.
Hey, everyone. So as a lot of you know, building a big team of volunteers is always going to be a part of our work here at Wyoming Promise. If we don't keep doing regular volunteer recruitment, we're never going to be able to grow to a scale that can handle all the work we need to do. And a large part of that is understanding that volunteers come back because they have fun and they felt their work was meaningful. So we need to make sure that everybody feels supported, productive, and like their time is effectively used. For that reason, Jen and I have spent quite a bit of time putting together some training materials for every county team, and it should be going out in an email probably sometime this week. And it has everything from if you're going out canvassing either in a crowd or if you're doing a door-to-door canvassing, we have like some helpful scripts on like what to go over, handy-dandy flip charts so you know exactly what the goals to set for your event, and even if you're hosting a phone bank. Because part of this, the way that we need to grow our volunteer team is by contacting everyone who's ever signed the petition. They've done an action. They want the opportunity to get more involved, and that will mean talking to more voters about the petition. So we're super excited. There's a lot of what's on our website has been condensed down to helpful packets so that you're just printing off one set of like an information sheet with all of our talking points and Wyoming-specific talking points. So everything from phone banking to canvassing will all be in there. A checklist. So say if you are organizing an event with anything from like 4 to 20 volunteers, you know exactly what to do when the time starts, like greeting everybody, signing everybody in, and also like writing a letter to the editor, and checking in on what everyone's team roles are. So everyone knows exactly what they need to do on a weekly to monthly basis to get us to where we need to be. So thanks so much. And you'll notice that there have been changes on our website, and you'll see that the training materials will also be changing. So thank you.
Thank you, Shana, for all your work. And one thing that has been updated on the website has a new look. It's actually a lot cleaner. I like it very much. And one thing that you'll notice if you haven't been to the website recently is that the supporters page is now being populated with people who have agreed to let us list them as supporters of our work. We have a couple of incumbent state legislators who are on the list now, a lot of candidates, and we're adding to the list every day. We have some more to add. I had an email conversation with Mary Throne this afternoon, and she definitely wants to be listed as a supporter after her performance last night. She clearly wants to be listed. She's going to give us a quote to put on, so we'll have Mary Throne added to the list of candidates very soon. We have several others, but there's something else that you on the call can do for us. Check out the supporters page, and if there's candidates in your county that you know who you think will be supporters, contact them and say, let's get you listed here, because this is turning out to be a pretty potent, I think, campaign issue during this cycle. People are talking about that. We got that message loud and clear from John Barrasso during our meeting on Monday when he says, I'm getting asked questions about this all the time. So we're having an impact out there. We actually used the fact during our lobby meeting with the members of Congress that all of your opponents are on our list as supporting this. So if you want to take that issue away from them, put your name on a list too. Agree with them. Again, nobody volunteered to step up, but maybe they will, because this is an issue that people are talking about now and they're asking questions about. So encourage your candidates to tell us, yes, I want to be listed as a supporter, and we'll get their names up there with a picture and a quote for anybody who wants to do that.
And can I just add to that, Ken? This is Shelby.
Sure.
And also for Jen, we want to get the candidate survey out to folks that are in our legislature now and see where they stand on this issue. So if you're interested in that and you want to do that, please let us know, and we'll be sending that out as well.
Right. Okay. So with that, we've left some time here at the end for people to ask questions or to report in if you've had a successful event of some sort. Please raise your hand and we'll call on you. And Lynn, go ahead.
Hi. I just wanted to say that if anybody from any of the counties knows that Senator Barrasso is coming to your county for a town hall meeting, any weekends that he's here in the state, if people would go to those meetings and ask Barrasso how he feels about it. I think that would actually be a really good, productive thing to do. And so that's one suggestion I wanted to make. And then I just wanted to give a big shout out to Jennifer for putting together a really awesome press release. We had been given a press release template in our packet to bring back, but Jennifer, just jumped on the ball of the press release, and she did it all herself before any of us, got back and gave her the template. So big shout out to Jennifer, and also a big shout out to Shayna for all the great work that she's doing in cleaning up the website. And both of you are just working really hard and diligently on this effort, and I'm really, really happy. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Okay, so does anybody else have any questions for us or comments or a success story or something you want to report in as to what's going on in your county? A couple hands going up here. Let me unmute Sarah Salsey. Sarah, you have the mic.
Hi there. So actually this is more of a question about regarding fundraising, is whether or not crowdfunding has been considered as a way of raising money.
What kind of funding?
Crowdfunding.
Crowdfunding. Yeah, we've talked about that. And Shelby, do you want to jump in on that?
Yes, crowdfunding is not a bad thing. Obviously, I think that for our efforts, it does make more sense to point folks towards the donation page on our website. Crowdfunding takes a percentage of funding, and I would say that the best thing you can do is share our donation page on our website, if you ask me, and just ask folks to donate there at this point.
I think the main problem I think with things like GoFundMe is that we may not get enough information to put on our disclosure forms. We have to file a report every a couple times a year during the election cycle, reporting the name of the person, the amount they gave, their occupation, stuff like that. So I'm not sure that a GoFundMe site is going to give us all the information that we need to be able to make a report.
That's correct, Ken and Sarah. It does make more sense to do it directly from the website because we then have all the information we need. So, yeah, I think that's where we're at.
Okay. And Chris Corfanta has her hand up. So, Chris, you have the mic.
Well, hello, everybody, and thanks for all the good work everybody's doing. I had a couple things. We did a couple canvases last week, and we had Sheridan has an event called Third Thursday, which happens every third Thursday in the summer, and so we geared up for that. We had some volunteers who gave us money. It cost $50 a time, so we've got it for the summer, so 3 Third Thursdays. And so regarding that, a couple of us made sandwich boards and walked around and had people go to the booth. And we were pretty successful. I think we got 135 signatures there. And then on the 2 canvassings, there were volunteers who went and pre-flyered a couple areas of town. So about 8 of us went on one night, and we ended up getting about 80-some signatures. We found a lot of people aren't home around dinner time. But anyway, that was really good. And we found it was helpful to call others who haven't been as active getting their petition filled because they've already done their friends and they're shy about asking strangers. So we paired up with some of them, and they we only had a few new ones join us, but they did say they now feel more comfortable about, asking strangers. And it seems like our word is getting out, so we didn't have to talk as much, although there are still a lot of people who aren't familiar with the issue. And then the other thing I wanted to say is if Bill Dolan comes to any of your town areas, I spoke with him before the gubernatorial forum yesterday, and he was familiar with it, and he did see the survey, and he was thoughtful. Even he was the one who kind of hemmed and hawed on the answer. And so I really do think that if people go up to him and talk to him about this issue, I think he could be swayed. I think he's thinking about it, which is good. The others, I don't know. I do think the guy in those of you who saw it, who was wearing the leather, a leather outfit.
Full beard and long hair.
I think he's in favor of it. There was some sort of sound issue up front, and I don't think he heard the question right, but maybe he's just kind of flaky and didn't know what it was about and said no because everybody else did. But I had spoken to him right before, and he hadn't heard about it, and he willingly signed it. So who knows?
He signed it and then said he was against it. So
yeah, I don't know if he heard it. That's what I'm wondering. That it's questionable because the sound up front wasn't as good for some of the candidates.
Okay, that's a possibility. So thank you so much for all your great work up there in Sheridan. I just wanted to give a shout out. We will send around the signatures report to all the county team leaders tonight or tomorrow. But we have 5 counties now that are over 50% of their goal. Leading the way is Johnson County at 83% of their goal. Second place is Albany County at 68%. Bighorns at 56%. Fremont and Sheridan are both at 55%. So those 5 counties are doing great work. They're already more than halfway to their goal. Sublette is at 46, so they're catching up. So we've got some good work going out there in the counties, and we'll get this report out to you and keep up the good work. Are there other questions, comments? Lynn, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question about how things went at the Democratic state convention that was held several weeks ago in Fremont County. And then I also had a question about what the status is of participating in the state fair in Douglas, August 15th through the 18th. I think we should probably talk about that because I think that's going to be an extremely important event that is in the center of the state that's going to bring people from all over the state. And I think we need to start kind of getting people aware of that and thinking about that and looking at their schedules, because we're going to need volunteers from all over the state coming to that fair, whether it be for 2 hours, 4 hours, half a day, 1 day. That would be really, really good. So Ken, you were at the Democratic convention, and I just never even we had so much going on in Washington, D.C. I never thought to ask you about how things went a few weeks ago in Fremont County. Yeah,
I'm happy to report. I was there. There was nothing from the podium or from in the public sessions that was broadcast to everybody. We did have a table there. Margie Farias was manning the table, and I think she got some signatures from some folks. And she was wearing a shirt, and I was wearing my shirt, so we were visible there, but we weren't part of the official. Because we need to stay a little one step away from the Democratic Party. We're not partisan. We're not one side or the other. So we tried to not be too obvious. But I was able to connect with some people in both Natrona and Teton counties. And the one big piece of news was I talked with a fairly prominent member of the Teton Democratic Party who had been opposed for one of the problems we're having in Teton County is the Democratic Party there is terrified of the convention, so they're not able to really step up and help out. But I talked with one member of the Teton delegation at some length and convinced her that the Article 5 convention is not that scary, and she said, you know what, I've changed my mind. I think I'm okay with this. And so now she is going to meet with some other folks there, and she's going to help start organizing things. So it's a baby step towards getting a Teton County cannabis team organized. So it was useful. I've also made some more baby steps forward in Natrona County, talking to some of the delegates there. So I was working kind of on the margins, talking to people, trying to get them on board. So that's what I was able to accomplish. Jennifer, you're unmuted. Do you want to talk about the state fair? Before you do, I just want to say one thing. Robin and I are going to be camping at the first 2 days of the state fair. We have a campsite, so we'll be up there in Douglas for the first 2 days of the state fair. We're going to be available to man the booth for some time, so that's a start. Jennifer, what else do you know about the state fair?
Actually, with the coverage there, anyone who is willing to be there, having folks around the booth, the actual space is going to drag more people in. So just even though we may have 3 or 4 petitions, maybe even more sitting there to capture those, with the state fair, you have to stay contained within your booth. You can't go outside of it. Maybe we'll go get a drink or whatever. You can start talking to folks, but you can't really solicit with your petition outside of that space. So anything we can do to drag in attention for the cause there in getting those signatures, all the bodies can help. If you can just let me know, Jennifer.Lorenz, LOHRENZ @gmail.com, or shoot me a text or call me at 307-578-7152. Let me know if you've got an available time, whether it's just like Ken said, a day, half a day. Maybe you can be there for the full week. All those bodies, it's just going to help us get that attention. We will be in a specific location on the fairgrounds, and we do not have to man it for the full open hours, but the more time that we're there, that's just more opportunity for us. So please, 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 anybody that is interested in being there, get in contact with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This is Shelby. I will just say that Ken is an amazing juggler, and he can juggle and draw people in to gather signatures as necessary, maybe. Other than that,
I'll ask James if we can get a cut on our rate for paying for the booth if we actually perform for entertainment as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Very good.
Okay, are there other questions, comments, success stories? Anything at all?
I don't see anything popping up, but I will say that we are recording this call, and so I know it being the summer, folks can't always make it for these kind of things, so we will have a recap email and recording for this call. So please share that with your volunteers and get them energized, because we are making gigantic waves right now. And please share this and share the recap email. We'll have links and everything else that we need to have in that. So that's all I have to say.
Yes, so thank you all for being on the call. Keep up the great work, everybody. We've still got a long way to go, but we are making progress, and we've got some leads now on some new volunteers in some key places that hopefully that will turn into active teams in places where we need active teams. We're going to get it done. Now's the time to be out there circulating, and thank you so much, everybody, for everything. The award we got is all up to you guys. You earned it. And so it's nice to pat ourselves on the back today, but tomorrow we're back on the streets gathering signatures. Thank you all so much for attending, and we'll end the call right here. Thank you.